Hi, I'm Keith Simonton, IMDb's managing editor, and welcome to What to Watch, a new series we've created to help you discover movies that we think you'll love. This month, we've selected director Ron Howard's new film entitled Rush. Rush is based on the amazing true story of the intense rivalry between two Formula One drivers, the charismatic Brit James Hunt and the resourceful, relentless Niki Lauda in the mid-1970s. Chris Hemsworth of Thor fame is perfectly cast as Hunt, Daniel Bruhl gives an award-worthy performance as Lauda, and Olivia Wilde plays Susie Miller, a top model who falls in love with Hunt, all against the backdrop of a legendary 1976 racing season. I caught up with the cast and filmmakers recently at the Toronto Film Festival, where we talked in depth about the making of Rush. Would you describe this film and what drew you to it?
I think I was drawn first and foremost by the sort of the surprising twists and turns in their lives. Something about the screenplay just surprised me in a kind of pleasant way. I'm not a Formula One fan. It wasn't really about the racing. It was just about, you know, the nature of the way this true story unfolded. Not a typical sort of sports narrative in a lot of ways. And I felt it was just almost like a gift. It was just creatively such a rare opportunity on a lot of levels.
Read the script and, you know, and the whole time reading it, I thought this can't be true. This has got to be fiction. And started researching and kind of fell in love with this story. And you know, the fact was greater than any fiction we were going to come up with. And the character of James and kind of, you know, on one hand is that there was the tabloid sort of image of him, which was this glamorous rock star, party, women, you know, the whole deal. But there was another side to him. And the deeper we kind of researched and the more people we spoke to, you know, we started to understand there was a massive vulnerability there. You know, there was a lot of insecurity and conflict and frustrations at sort of what he had achieved or hadn't achieved.
James, do you think you can cope with the pressure?
Well, I've never really understood what that means. I love my job. I love competing. I love racing. Maybe you should ask Niki. He's the world champion. He's got everything to lose.
Mr. Lauda, are you feeling pressure?
Do I look like I'm feeling pressure? I'm world champion and on the verge to become world champion again. Hunt now has the opportunity to win, but it's not so easy to become a champion. You have to really believe it to make it possible.
Seeing Niki prompted me to think about him and prompted me to remember that 76 season in which he had his accident. And I approached him and I said, look, you know, have you ever considered a movie? He said he'd been asked about 30 times, but he'd never wanted to throw his hat in the ring with anyone. And I said, well, I'd like to do it, but not just about you, I'm afraid. I'd like to do it about you and James. And that really appealed to him. He could immediately see how that would branch it out, would make it a bigger story than just a story about him. He was selfless enough to see that actually by including a rivalry with an Englishman, that you then immediately have two different flavors, two different tones, and something that could make the film feel much less geographically specific and more universal. I told him that I wanted to structure the story like a race, and that really appealed to him. I told him that I wanted them to meet on equal terms, and that James would, you know, move forward, overtake him, which would inspire him to overtake James, which would inspire James to overtake him. And in fact, if you have a look at the movie, the entire movie is structured like a race.
I was always waiting for a call from Mr. Lauda, and one day, 6 o'clock in the morning, I saw a +43 on my phone. I thought, okay, that's him. And it was hilarious. He was so as blunt as in the script, you know. He said, good morning, this is Niki. I guess we have to meet now. And I said, yes, that'd be great. Just bring hand luggage to Vienna. In case we don't like each other, you can piss off right away. So I flew to Vienna with my little tiny bag. Fortunately, I had to buy some extra clothes because I stood there longer than expected. I studied his body language. You know, he has a very distinctive body language, and also the thing about being the rat and the teeth was something very distinctive that we wanted to get right as well. A lot of aspects in the script and also things that I did with it came from me, and I was just hoping that Niki would like that, you know, because again, he's very blunt. So I'm happy that he called me after watching the movie and said, good. So I said, okay.
They want me to stop messing around, settle down, get married with the next nice girl I meet. I think it would be good for me.
What do you think?
Sounds awful.
It's a movie about, obviously, this intense rivalry. Yet there's two centerpiece, relationships, and one that's only lasted like 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that that's so important to this film?
It's interesting because I never saw that relationship as important as it played on screen when I read the script. And then shooting the movie and what Olivia was doing, all of a sudden went, oh wow, this is really pivotal. She's the only person that really matches his kind of glamour and sort of presentation and whatever, and challenges him. And although he kind of turns his back on it, I think it's something that it was a lesson to him as well.
It changed James Hunt's life. It was important as a marker for him. He was attempting to evolve, attempting to grow up, and he really did love Susie. She was a fantastic creature, and she loved him. But he just wasn't ready. He struggled with so many demons. And I think she would have put up with many things. She was a very understanding person, but she couldn't put up with all of it.
Welcome to the racing grudge match of the decade.
World champion Niki Lauda, trapped in a searing inferno of 800+ degrees.
Can you explain why you kept this particular title?
I thought that the title Rush, offered a lot of clues to the audience because, so much of this is about the sort of the void someone is trying to fill. It's almost like they're struggling for a sensation. They want to prove something, and in proving it, they feel this exhilaration, and it's something kind of addictive about that. And I think that addiction, that compulsion, is in a way what we as an audience begin to fear, because we see it sort of taking hold in both their lives, and it's a thing pushing them to greatness, perhaps, or perhaps destruction.
Any particular trivia about Rush?
It's interesting to note that we had a real Niki Lauda Formula One car from the season. We also had a James Hunt McLaren. The trivia is that no one under contract to the movie was ever allowed to drive those cars. Not an actor, not a stunt driver, not a precision driver. Only the owner-operators were allowed to drive them. And they uniformly insisted that they were the ones who were going to drive the car. So, I think it was probably the bank accounts of our sort of behind the scenes drivers were probably outstripped anybody else involved in the movie.
Can you explain how a change in a scene of dialogue that was supposed to go to someone else benefited you and not Richard Burton?
There was supposed to be a scene at the end where Richard Burton confronts James Hunt and says, "Listen, you've lost Susie. She's mine now. I'll pay you handsomely to make it a clean divorce and get over it." And they were going to have a scene where, two bad boys conversing over a shared love. And Peter Morgan kind of did me a solid and gave me the scene instead of Burton. So it became about Susie letting go of James, and she kind of takes the power back.
And it benefited you to the expense of?
Oh, Russell Crowe. Well, Russell didn't shoot anything. He was just very kindly considering being our Burton, if Burton had become a real role. Russell and, of course, Ron have a relationship, and I thought, it's the only time I've ever been really thrilled that, someone else's scene went to me. I was like, great, yes! I got to show a little bit more of who she was.
Do you think there's a line that summarizes the movie from your screenplay that's spoken?
The closer you are to death, the more alive you feel.
I like one of the final lines in the movie, I think, where he said, you can have a million cups and medals and planes and whatever, but if you're not having fun, what's the point? And I love that, I love that attitude, and that's the way he lived, Everything was, if he wasn't enjoying it, he didn't want to be a part of it. And including racing, he enjoyed it till a point, and the moment he stopped having fun, he was out of there. And I think that's, we spend far too much time getting caught up in the small things and the unimportant things, and the idea of just enjoying life is a pretty special way to live, I think so.
Rush is a big, exciting drama that doubles as a superb sports film with life or death at stake. It straps you into the car with these two fascinating characters and never hits the brakes. That's why it's what to watch. Rush opens nationwide on September 27th. To get local movie showtimes and buy tickets, go to our mobile apps or visit imdb.com/showtimes.